Okay, good morning, everyone. We're a little bit late and we only have an hour. And we're in a different building and people are sort of catching up with the new location and what have you. So we have a quorum, so we're going to get started. So welcome to the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules meeting on January 4th, 2024. First up will be the minutes from December 14th, 2023. If we have a motion to approve, any discussion, edits? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. First up is Rule 23P19, Vermont the Public Utility Commission Rule 5.100 rule pertaining to construction operation of net metering systems, known as the net metering rule. We took testimony and had a presentation on the rule at the last meeting, and we felt we needed to go at least one more meeting, continue to have a conversation and do some due diligence. I think the committee's done that. I see that Dick Marin, staff attorney for UCS here. And I know we have at least one other individual that's going to provide testimony. Jake?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Nice to see everyone again. I hope the novelty of the new year hasn't worn off yet. We submitted follow-up written comments. I hope you've had time to review those, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have about our proposed rule. Thank you.
Any members? Any questions for Jake? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Pretty thorough.
We'll move on to Annette Smith, who is with the Vermonters for a Clean Environment.
Good morning. This is Annette Smith with Vermonters for a Clean Environment. Thank you very much for offering me the time to testify this morning. I will not take much time. I'm pleased to speak in support of this proposed update to the net metering rule. Vermonters for a Clean Environment participated throughout the process. It was a very rigorous process with ample opportunity for input. And in particular, there are two sections that are especially beneficial in the rule update. We deal with very few net metering projects, but the ones that we do deal with are very problematic, and they are usually involving preferred site letters and the lack of notice to interested parties, especially adjoiners. And this rule update is an improvement to that by requiring the preferred site letter to be gotten after the advance notice is filed. And the other part that you've heard a fair amount about is the cutting forests for solar. And I wanted to take this opportunity to bring to your attention a recent excellent report that was done by Harvard Forests and Mass Audubon. And the summary of it is in this article. Clearing forests is a very contentious issue in Massachusetts and in Vermont. And for example, we're seeing with net metered projects, 500 kilowatt projects proposing to clear 9 acres, where we're also seeing 9 acres proposed to be cleared for 2 megawatt projects. And so the limitation on the clearing for forests is most welcome, and both of those projects are before the PUC right now and are very contentious. Clearing forests for solar is always likely to generate opposition. This report is really extensive. I would have sent you a PDF, but it's 121 megabytes. So, but I can't tell you how valuable this is as you're considering energy policy. And it contains some recommendations that are excellent. And for instance, eliminate incentives for ground mount solar systems on natural and working lands, and to increase the incentives for canopy, rooftop, and ground mount solar. So what is proposed here is in this rule update, it consistent with these really excellent research recommendations, which is to reduce the incentives for clearing forests or natural and working lands for solar. And that's really pretty much what I wanted to say. There's one other piece in this that I found really valuable to bring to your attention, and that is that this acknowledges that when forests are proposed to be cleared, it results in increasing the opposition to renewable energy. And we've seen that in Vermont. And so what I think this rule update does is it um, increases the uh, potential for projects to go through more quickly. It reduces the contested cases and will result in more support for well-sited renewable energy projects. So thank you very much, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Committee? Dr. Bray.
Not a question. Just wanted to thank Ms. Smith for sending along the information and the link to the full article. A lot of something I wasn't aware of, and this is an ongoing issue. You know, we've been talking about it in the RES reform work that's underway. So thank you. It'll be
You're
useful
welcome.
all the way around.
That link goes directly to that report, which also cites and refers to a Nature Conservancy study on which it relied. And so thank you, Senator Bray, for acknowledging this just came out in October. It is a really good piece of work, and we can learn from it.
Other committee members? Senator Bray.
I wanted to thank Mr. Marin for his really excellent memo in response to the discussion from last time. It was very helpful to review the history we went through. It's already like 6 years ago that we changed course, and appreciate the PUC their work on it. So I would move approval of Rule 23P19, Vermont Public Utility Commission Rule 5.100, pertaining to construction, operation, of net metering systems.
We have a motion of Senator Bray to approve Rule 23P19. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thanks, Jake, and thank you, Annette.
Thank you, everyone. See you around this session, I'm sure.
Okay, next up we have Rule 23P34, Department of Financial Regulation, Stability, and Annuity Transactions. And I think we have Stan, is it Massel?
Maisel. Thank you.
Maisel?
Yes.
Sorry.
No
And
problem.
I believe you have Hillary.
Hillary Borcherding is joining me as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, committee members. My name is Stan Maisel. I'm Assistant General Counsel at DFR, the Department of Financial Regulation, and Hillary Borcherding is also an Assistant General Counsel here with me today. We're here to present a new proposed rule, namely suitability and annuity transactions, DFR Regulation I 2023-01, SOS 23PO34. The proposed rule requires producers, as defined in the rule, to act in the best interest of the consumer when making a recommendation of an annuity, to require insurers to establish and maintain a system to supervise recommendations so that the insurance needs and financial objectives of consumers at the time of the transactions are effectively addressed. This came out of a proposal from the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They approved this model rule in 2020. The NAIC is the insurance standard setting organization created by the insurance regulators of all the states. It believes that a high degree of harmonization across the states, across regulatory platforms, would be beneficial to consumers and the industry. It's provided that states need to work towards adopting this model by February 2025, next month, or a year and a month from now, to maintain the federal exemption of fixed and fixed index annuities pursuant to the Dodd-Frank Act. Thus, if Vermont does not enact this rule, the state's authority to regulate the sale of fixed and fixed index annuities may be jeopardized. It is in the interest of the state to continue regulating these and to provide a clear standard for its annuity providers to treat customers. To date, approximately 40 states have adopted a rule based on the NAIC model, with proposals in 6 states, including Vermont, pending. I want to briefly note that through the Lcar process, we've identified a few small proposed changes to the rule. These are permitted by Lcar Rule Section 4I2. In Section 3, we would substitute the word adopted for the word issued. In 9B, substitute the word rule for regulation. In Section 10, substitute this rule shall take effect for the amendments to this rule shall take effect, and delete the phrase but not limited to throughout to be consistent with drafting rules in Vermont. At this point, I thought it would be helpful just to talk briefly about the best interest standard. To satisfy the best interest obligation, a producer or an insurer must satisfy 4 obligations: care, disclosure, conflict of interest, and documentation. To satisfy the 4 obligations, when making a recommendation, producers must know a customer's financial situation, insurance needs, and financial objectives, understand the available recommendation options, have a reasonable basis to believe the recommended option effectively addresses the consumer's financial situation, insurance needs, and financial objectives, communicate the basis of the recommendation to the consumer, disclose their role in the transaction, their compensation, and any material conflicts of interest, and document in writing any recommendation and the justification for such recommendation. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the rule.
Thank you. Representative Barnhart.
Thank you. There were a couple of comments from I think people in the industry questioning a couple of things like the form,
Yes.
The standard form, deviation from the standard form, and then the issue about citing specifically any reasonable anticipated future changes. And I just wanted to, I don't know if somebody else is going to talk about that, but we'll at least ask the question and have somebody respond to those concerns of.
No, I'm happy to talk about that. Thank you. DFR received written comments from 4 industry groups: the ACLI, the American Council of Life Insurers, the FACC, Federation of Americans for Consumer Choice, the IRI, the Insured Retirement Institute, and NAIFA, the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. And based on these comments, the DFR did make some changes to the proposal as originally proposed, most notably regarding the forms. All 4 commenters commented that as originally proposed, the language said that you could use a form provided in the rule or other similar form approved by the commissioner. The commenters said that getting prior approval from the commissioner would be a burden, and in reviewing it, the DFR changed the language to allow for substantially similar forms, and we will take a look at the forms we received to make sure after the fact that they are substantially similar. There were some other comments and recommendations that the DFR did not believe were warranted. The commenter suggested a change to the description of financial situation and needs in section 5D3. we had added a phrase to the NAIC proposal to say that financial situation and needs should consider those that are reasonably anticipated future changes. And they believe that that was redundant. We believe it's useful to highlight that financial situation and needs may include reasonably anticipated future changes. And for that reason, we believe that the language should remain. There were a couple other.
Just before we move on from that, and sorry to interrupt, but the other concern that related to that one was that the concern that carriers may interpret the added language as requiring a Vermont-specific suitability form or questionnaire, which would add unnecessary costs and burden. Do you have a response to that?
We believe that that's not necessary, and that if producers would like to provide additional information, they can, but there's nothing in the rule that would require that.
That's not quite what they were saying. Just to be clear about the concern was that producers may interpret the added language as requiring a Vermont-specific suitability form. Do you share that concern, or do you think that concern is not warranted?
I believe that concern is not warranted. That interpretation is overbroad, but the DFR could address that if that is a concern going forward by industry commentary or through its comment process.
Other committee members, questions? Senator Bray?
Well, I don't know if we have any other witnesses.
We do not.
I'm noticing that Chair Cummings of Senate Finance signed off on the rule. So I would, and given that what we've heard today for testimony, so I would move approval of Rule 2034, suitability and annuity transactions regulation I 2023-01, for the following four modifications agreed to by the Department of Financial Regulation. 1, in Section 3, substituting was adopted. Section 9B, substituting the word rule for regulation. In Section 10, substituting this rule shall take effect, or the amendments to this rule shall take effect. And 4th, deleting but not limited to throughout to be consistent with 1 VSA Section 145.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Rule 23P33 with those modifications. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we have 23P33, Department of Corrections reporting of offender information. Christopher Antoine. Good morning. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Nope.
Okay, how about now?
There you go.
Okay, so it was showing me unmuted in Zoom, but not on my actual computer, so that's strange. But Christopher Antoine, staff attorney with the Department of Corrections. We are here to seek the repeal of the reporting of offender information rule because it is no longer the guiding document for reporting offender information. The department was directed by 28 BSA section 107 to adopt another rule about sharing of offender and incarcerated individual information, and did so. So this rule is no longer in use and no longer needed. All the information all the information in it concerning how to share and when we can share information is now contained in that other rule or other statutes.
You want to speak a little bit to the new rule that's been put in place? Help us understand that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the new rule that was put in place was adopted in 2019, I believe. It governs essentially the process by which offenders and those with authorization from offenders can request their own records. The rest of the items from the old rule are statutory requirements about when we would release information, such as like mandatory reporting. So those items are not in the new rule, but they are in statute. And apologies, I was expecting Anna Burke to join me today. So essentially, the new rule states that the department will release information, certain forms of information upon request and in compliance with other federal and state laws such as HIPAA, 42 CFR Part 2, FERPA, and so on. And it provides a process by which individuals will be able to receive those records.
Thank you. Committee, questions?
Would like a motion to approve 23P33 Department of Corrections reporting of offender information.
We have a motion from Representative Higley to approve Rule 23P33. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Thank you. Okay. We have one last item on the agenda, and that is review and approval of the 2024 in-session meeting schedule. You have that, or should have that. Require a motion to vote?
It's on here, but it's posted. I think if you just discuss it.
All right.
So it is so.
We don't need a motion, but if there's any questions or discussion or otherwise, it's on our website. Committee members? Yes.
The only perennial discussion item I have is that we meet during the crush of trying to adjourn, but that's life.
Yes, but I think we'll address that as we get there, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we've done in the
Sometimes it works
past.
out fine. Sometimes it's a collision.
So that is going through until you think adjournment is going to be with the gap for town hall meeting week. But my recollection is the same as Representative Squirrel. Once you know what the crush is, if it's leading up to town hall meeting week or adjournment, modifying accordingly.
All set? Okay. All right. Hearing nothing else this meeting, I'm sorry.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
Which is you only have one rule scheduled for
The 11th.
the 11th, the ALS registry rule, which is very similar to the emergency rule that was already adopted. They made very small changes, one of which was in response to a letter that the chairs of the subject matter committees sent to Lcar. Your 45 days on that would allow you to push it to the 18th. The 45-day review period is up on the 25th.
And we have two rules on the 18th.
You have two rules, the manufactured food rule, which is quite manageable looking, and the water supply rule, which looks like
It's substantive, but
I haven't looked at it yet. I've been overwhelmed by its size, but it could be that there are just minor changes in there.
okay, then that's, if everyone's okay with that, without objection, we'll move that rule for the 18th. There'll be no Lcar meeting next week. Senator Bray's happy about
What am
that.
I going to do? This big morning.
All right.
the spirit of your prior comment. You can now have a rush for
This
the second
meet-
week of session.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank